We are live. Yeah, I've fucked up again. DJ's in the chat. I didn't even know DJ. Sorry, DJ. I'm doing the 30-second countdown. I'm looking at my phone, and I just noticed you're in the chat, and I'm like, because I can't. I'll turn my phone off because it's echoing. I can't start a live stream without anyone in the chat, and you're always the first one in the chat. So as soon as I see you in the chat, I know I can start doing the live stream. But yeah, what type did you have? It was me feast. It was Iceland. I'm sure you have Iceland in Scotland. Iceland in Scotland. Yeah, they do pretty good pizzas. I've got to say, I'm quite impressed with their pizzas. They've got a good selection. It wasn't the best. It was decent, you know. Oh, by the way, am I coming through loud and clear? Let me know, because I've got a pretty shit setup. So just let me know if I'm coming through loud and clear. I haven't ate pizzas since 2016. Why? That's just steak sauce is in the chat. Steak sauce. I'll let me just clipboard. Right, okay. Paste. So the links to the chat. If anyone wants to jump on. Hopefully, I've never done this before apart from once. So if someone wants to jump on and have a chat, hopefully it works. I don't know, because I've done this once and it worked. So I'm not sure. Health reasons, DJ. I mean, you know, pizza's not good for you. It's not. It's not good for you. You know, I mean, I do like pizza, but all food that tastes nice is bad for you, and all food that's good for you tastes like shit. So what are you gonna do? It's kind of like you have to sort of weigh up the good with the bad. And so tonight, you know, I put it on a tweet before. I played football tonight. I haven't played football. I'm 44, so I'm old, and I haven't played football for like 2 years. And I played tonight like 5-a-side, you know, like on an AstroTurf pitch, and fucking hell, man, I was destroyed. When I got home, I was like in a real state. And I was playing 8 till 9. That's why this stream is half an hour late, because I was meant to go at 12, but I was playing football 8 till 9. I got in, you know, by the time I got in, 20 past 9, had a shower, just relaxed, a couple of beers, something to eat, and by the time it was like sort of like 10 to 12. I was like, I'm not going to be getting the stream started at 12 o'clock. There's just no way. So I always seem to delay the streams because I never seem to sort of get them done on time. But did I even acknowledge steak sauce in the chat? Steak. If you want to jump on, mate, jump on. I've never done really like a live stream with other people on the chat. So if you want to jump on, and if it works, you know, I mean, I'm curious to see whether it actually works, because I haven't really got that much to talk about. I was just going to jump for an hour, talk about a bit of shit, you know, Black Widow, Conjuring, shit like that. But if you want to like click the link, and I'll see if it works, because I'm not entirely sure. Because every time I do a live stream, whenever I jump on Lorne's live streams, I always seem to have like issues with like audios and stuff, and so I'm curious to know whether it will work, because I've never actually. The only time I've ever done a live stream where I've had a guest on, well, go back to my first video and you'll understand why I've never actually gone back and done another live stream with a guest. It's self-explanatory if you know this community. But yeah, just thought I'd jump on. This is kind of like a regular thing now. Friday night stream. just chatting shit, just chatting. But what's going on in the week? Sort of like what's going on in general. So watching Black Widow. Is anybody seen? Who's in that? DJ, you in the chat? There's 3 people. If Steak's there, great. I don't know if he's still there, but if anybody's seen Black Widow, what opinion? I mean, I've seen it. Now I don't know if anybody else has seen it. Opinions. I thought it was. It was average. It was. Well, I'll just jump into the chat again. Favorite people from beside John Lennon. Probably George Harrison. Yeah. I mean, I think Paul McCartney's kind of like. I think Paul McCartney's because he's so old now, because he's like lived a life, and he's had more time to become annoying to people. And I don't mean to disparage Paul McCartney. You know, what he's done is legendary, but George Harrison was always like the cool one, and he died. He didn't die young, but he died, you know, middle-aged. Whereas Paul McCartney's just going to get older and older and probably become like a bit annoying to people. Yeah, so George Harrison. Yeah, I think most people would say George. And it's not going to be Ringo Starr. Jesus Christ. But I've lost my train of thought now. What was I talking about? It was Black Widow. Black Widow is not really. It's not like the film was made at the wrong time. It's been released at the wrong time. It's not a groundbreaking film in any way. The MCU is really, really, really going to have to sort of like look at what they're putting out in the next couple of years, because no company is beyond reproach. Disney in the 80s was a mess. Disney in the 80s was possibly, I mean, I'm no expert, but by all accounts, Disney in the 80s was probably, you know, could have been taken over. It was in such a bad way, and it fought its way back. It's made some solid acquisitions in the last 15, 20 years, but nobody is beyond sort of completely falling off the radar in terms of like success. And Disney needs to be careful, because the MCU is a large part of their portfolio, and if what they're doing at the minute, I don't really see it becoming. I don't see that they're really pandering to like minorities maybe too much. I don't want to sound like I'm being like one of those people who kind of like says, oh well, they're being a little bit too politically correct. But the Black Widows, it almost seemed like it was kind of oh, women are great, men are stupid, or men are evil. And the new Eternals, is it? That just looks like the most boring film ever made. The trailer is so dull and grey. It looks like the trailer, I've said this before, it looks like the trailer for Dune. Now, Dune is a film that like I've got no interest in, but apparently a lot of people are crazy to see it. But if grey and dull is a thing for Dune, maybe people love that. But for Marvel, you know, no. To me, it looks really, really, really stale, and I just do not know where they are going to go with the franchise now. It looks like it's in a really, you know, nothing's beyond reproach, as I said, and everything has a shelf life, and I think the MCU could possibly be reaching the shelf life. I honestly don't see the MCU as a thing, a big deal. Definitely not in 10 years' time for now. In 5 years' time, probably not. It's going to be gone, I think, and people are going to be looking for something different. And yeah, that's it. That's it about Black Widow. I'm so prepared. I'm not prepared because it's all on my phone. So obviously you've got to go into my phone and talk about the next topic, which is the Chucky TV show. Now, Chucky TV show is dropping apparently in the next couple of days, and I know nothing about this. I had no idea that Chucky TV show was a thing. Where have I been? Have I not been on the right social media sites? Have I not been on the right Twitter pages? Because as far as I was concerned, Chucky didn't end, but the last Chucky film was the last I heard of it. And all of a sudden, there's a trailer dropping, and it's coming out in the next few days. I'd rather there's other TV shows. There's other film franchises I'd rather see TV shows of rather than Child's Play. Really, Child's Play is just how has it gotten this sort of mainstream? I understand originally with the first few films, but then it just dragged on through the 90s and into the noughties. It got a remake, and I was getting a TV show. I don't understand. I've never liked Child's Play. I like the first two films to a point. I'm not a massive fan. 3 was just, well, 3 was a big deal in the UK because it actually got banned in the UK because he was meant to have influenced the notorious child murder very close to where I live. But I've never really got it, and it only got worse after 3. It just became like a comedic spoof on these sorts of killer doll movies, and people seem to love it. I mean, people really seem to love Chucky and the Child's Play franchise, which is I find quite. I can't get my head around it. I mean, it's like I can understand you've got Michael, Jason, Freddy. To a lesser extent, to me, Chucky is always like on that B tier. He's on the tier of like Pinhead. Actually, no, because I would say Leatherface is on the B tier, but I put Leatherface way ahead of Chucky. But I suppose they are kind of like on that B tier. But I've never really understood why there is the love for Chucky. I've never understood the sequels. They must have been doing decent box office in the 90s to keep on getting that endless sequels, I'm assuming, because most franchises were killed off, especially in the 90s. You know, a lot of franchises were killed off in the 90s, which began in the 80s. And Child's Play, although it is primarily a 90s franchise, it did begin in the 80s. But, you know, the 90s, especially when Scream came along, you would have thought that Child's Play would have been made redundant. Now, it just seemed to gain, well, not I would say gain popularity, but it gained even more in terms of like films in the 90s. Well, so Child's Play 3 came out in 91. Maybe there was a gap in the 90s. Look, as I say, I'm not a big fan of Child's Play. People in the chat, what was the timeline of the Child's Play films after 3? So in terms of like Curse, Cult, Bride, I can't remember. Did they play out in the noughties? Was there a big gap in the 90s, or were they actually going through the 90s? Because I honestly can't remember. Because like I say, I am not a fan of the Chucky films. How Dan's in the chat. But you can see it's been successful. Dan, if you want to jump in the chat, mate, just, I've put the link there. If you want to jump in, because I'm curious to know I just want to know whether my internet's working okay and I can actually have I have done a live stream with other people in the chat before, but it's been a while and I'm kind of like, so if anyone wants to jump in, you can click the link. It's there. DJ Donnelly. I don't know. I think it ran for two or three seasons. I don't know whether it got a fourth, or it might not even got a third. I'm not sure. I mean, I've never seen the Scream TV series. I should really watch that, because I probably, as a big Scream fan, I probably should watch it. But and Killer is what's the Jamie Lee Curtis TV show? Is it Killer Scream Queens? I've never seen that either, and I really need to see that as well. There's two TV shows I'm wasting my time watching bloody Fear Street on Netflix, which is just boring me to fucking tears. I don't know. Yeah, I think I discussed this last week. I mean, it's 1920. So that was kind of like the timeline. Dan, Stuart Scalding moved once his owner King died. I just didn't understand what was this reason for not being able to have the actual mask from the films. Was it obviously it was too expensive? I mean, if you were going to do a Scream TV show, would you not just pay the money and get that mask? Because the mask on the TV show just looked, it was just way off. It didn't look right. But yeah, I still want to watch the Scream TV show. I can't believe I haven't watched it yet. Maybe it's just there's that much stuff on streaming now, plus all this old stuff that I'm trying to, like I say, doing this new Lorne's got this new show on his channel where you compare two films which have like similar similar sort of plot lines, but like obviously different films. And watching a 60s film which I'd never seen before, which I'd never watch a 60s film with like Audrey Hepburn in, because I just think it bored me to tears, and I really enjoyed it. And then watching like some old film from '71 with Mia Farrow. It's a British film as well, which I'd never heard of, called See No Evil. And the first film with Audrey Hepburn, it was a good film, solid film, enjoyed it. But the Mia Farrow film, that just like blew me away. I was like so engrossed in that film. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I've never heard of this film. And it just goes to show, like, going back the history of film before what I became aware of, because I'm kind of like I'm an 80s kid, stroke 90s kid, and everything I watched was just, the furthest I go back is usually about 75, with like Jaws, maybe 74. It doesn't really go back any further than that. The odd film, I mean, I love The Birds, the Hitchcock film, and I love like Zulu and things like that, but it's very rarely that there's a film before 1970 that I really love. But this is what that's what I need. I need someone to say, watch this, because I sort out the wheat from the chaff, the good from the bad, because there's so much stuff that was released in the 60s and 70s, obviously, that I don't want to spend. We're on this planet for limited time. You can't spend too much time watching shit. You've got to watch. You got to make the most time watching like good films. So yeah, I just want to watch the good shit. If it's from the 60s and 70s, I don't want to be watching the really bad stuff. Oh, Sean's in the chat. Hello, Sean. Nice to see you on board. Sure. I love the Carry On films. What I'm saying about like 60s and 70s films, I will make an exception for the Carry On films. If I said there's a lot of shit, I am not including the Carry On films. The Carry On films are fucking amazing. Anybody who's not American, anybody who's not British probably won't understand what the Carry On films are, but they are just. And in 2021, I would just say the Carry On films are troublesome. If you're American, damn, they would be considered troublesome in 2021. which means they're fucking brilliant. Black Sunday, is it? Right, I'll make a note of that, Dan. I'm just gonna get my phone out. I'm just gonna put that on IMDb, and I'll make a note of that because I am trying to like really sort of Black Sunday, 1960, Barbara Steele. I'm guessing it's that. I'm gonna make a note of that. I'm just gonna add to the watch list. 1960, same year as Psycho and Peeping Tom, the film that allegedly came out. Did Peeping Tom come out before Psycho? Because people say that Psycho is like Psycho is influential. Obviously, I'm not going to dispute Psycho's influence, but a lot of people will say that Peeping Tom was got there first. And that was like the one that really sort of set off that sort of set off what though? I mean, as I say, Psycho and Peeping Tom came out in 1960. Now, I really need Dan. You could probably be the one to help me, and Lorne as well. When Psycho came out and Peeping Tom came out in 1960, they were considered, you know, this new wave of horror, which nobody ever seen before. But between 1960 and maybe the early 70s, what were the films to watch that were pushing the envelope in the way that they did in the 60s? Because for someone my age, I don't know even how old you are, Dan. I think you're probably around my age, a bit older. Maybe it needs, but you know a lot more about movies than I do. In terms of the 1960s, there's got to be, you know, a lot of films that really sort of, I don't know how available these films are, but films that were influenced or even influenced Psycho and Peeping Tom, which released during the 60s, which nobody really mentions, because it seems like whenever everyone talks about horror films, people talk about, oh yes, Psycho, 1960, and then they just jump to Night of the Living Dead, 68, I think, and then they'll jump to Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, early 70s, Last House on the Left. There must have been a slew of horror films that came out in the sort of early to late 60s, which nobody ever mentions. And now, what are those films? Now, I don't know. I don't know nothing about movies in the 60s. And I know not much about movies in the 70s. So, yeah, just Dan, if you know anything, just make a little list, mate, or just DM me on Twitter, you know, whatever, because I'm down for like a lot of this stuff. Because, like as I say, that Audrey Hepburn film, Wait Until Dark, which I knew nothing about, just a really, really great film. I've just gone on one of my stupid rants, and I've totally missed the. I've missed some of the chat now. Yeah, so it is the 1960 film, Dan. Yeah, it's hot here, Sean, as well. It is. It's hot by our standards. It's not hot by American standards. It's like about 28 degrees. So like about late 70s, early 80s, low 80s maybe. But yeah, it's too hot for English people. Have you seen? I've never seen that, DJ. I will just make. I'm just going to make a note of that one as well. A film that I'd never considered watching, that came to my attention today. It was a film from the mid-90s called Virtuosity with Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe. Apparently it's like not that bad, and I was like, I always thought that was a really, really cheesy sort of like new, you know, a film that came out during the birth for the internet, and it was like one of those really cheesy sort of like virtual reality films. But apparently, it's not that bad, and I'm sort of interested to check it out now, because obviously the mid-90s was like you had the Net, Lawnmower Man, these really cheesy films that like they just discovered like this. The internet was a new thing then, and they were trying to cash in on the whole scene. But apparently, this is like not a bad film, so I'm curious to check that one out. So if anybody's seen Virtuosity, let me know. Is it worth my while, or is it just a shit show? But Russell Crowe playing a bad guy, playing like is he some sort of like a combination of like 100 serial killers or something? I don't know. Darren, finally gets your chat, mate. Good to see you on board, man. Hi, Mike. There's another film with me about playing a blind girl from 1976 called Strange Shadows in an Empty Room, aka Blazing Magnum. If things like that. Blind girl. Well, I'll make a note of that one as well. Yeah, I'm really getting down into the giallos at the minute. There's a list like as long as my arm of giallos I need to watch, and the thing I love about giallos is you never know. I suppose when you watch maybe like 3 or 4, 5 or 6, maybe you sort of to see a pattern how they're going to play out. But the great thing about getting into like not even a genre of film, maybe getting into like a time zone of films, like watching Wait Until Dark from '67, the Audrey Hepburn film. Having no knowledge of films at that time, I had no idea how the film was going to play out. You know, when you watch a film in 2021 or 2011, or, you know, when you watch modern films, you see them that often, you know how you're pretty much sure it's going to have this, certain tropes, and you know it's going to play out in a certain way. But when you go back 50 years, 60 years, times are different then. You've just got no idea how the film's going to end. It's like watching, you know, I say Audrey Hepburn film Wait Until Dark. I had no idea if he was going to survive, if he was going to die, whether Audrey Hepburn could die in the film. I don't. At the time, I was like, maybe this time they just kill off, you know, the main star. I don't know. I don't watch films from the 60s as a rule. I don't know. So it was just a really, really. It's almost like it's exciting to watch a film of a time when you just don't know where it's going to go, and that's just such a great thing. And obviously, you know, the more I watch of 60s films, I'm probably going to go further and further back and watch 50s films and 40s films. But yeah, it's just a great thing. And I've missed more of the chat, and Dan's been chatting. Virtuosity isn't bad. Yeah, The Lawnmower Man is meant to be a pretty bad film, though, by all accounts. Now, I've not seen it. Maybe it's not that bad, but I do remember it not being particularly good. Tombs of the Blind Dead is much. Okay, Dan, I will make a note of that. You're just gonna. Dan could probably come up with a list of about like 100 films that I need to watch, but it's how available are some of these films out, Dan? Because I mean, See No Evil, the Mia Farrow film, was only available on Amazon Prime, and that was £3. I had to pay £3.50 to watch, just to rent it and watch it on the TV, and I've not got a problem with that. But it's just some of these movies are probably, if there's a lot of them, I'm probably going to have to go down the route of maybe not legally watching them. You know what I'm saying? Just a certain film. My bank balance is only so. It's not deep. It's fucking shallow. so there's probably certain films I'm just going to have to go down the route of like maybe illegally streaming them. I didn't say that, but you know, it is what it is. I've done that one. Did you see Sean Hayden stream? Dan. Oh, this is for Dan. Did you mention anything? I started watching Hayden stream, and then I had to go to work. Did something crazy happen? Sean? Because with Hayden's streams, he seemed quite normal at the beginning, so I'm guessing, did anything mad happen? I was like, whenever Hayden starts streaming, if he looks like he's been a bit crazy, I'm always like, oh shit, I really want to watch it, but if I've got to go to work, I'm going to miss it. And oh man, the stream he did with Dan, the pumpkin pie stream, holy shit, man. I was going to work the morning to the pumpkin pie stream, and I think what happened was you were just doing like a normal stream with Hayden, and I can't remember who else was on the stream, but I think Al came on just about before I was going to work, and I was like, I had my phone, I was like watching it, I was like looking at the clock. I think I'm working at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whatever it was. I'm like, look at my phone, like, oh shit, this is going to be good. And I'm like, I've got to go to fucking work. And I was like, I've got to get in the car and drive to work. And I got in the car, drove to work. And I got to work, and like before I start work, it's like, I've got like 10 minutes before I was back on the live stream, like, fuck, he's gone. I'm like, what have I missed? I'm like, if this is a stream where Hayden just deletes it, I'm never gonna fucking see this stuff. Luckily, he didn't delete it completely. I've managed to rewatch it, but oh shit, man. Some of the stuff that goes on in like those late night streams where I'm going to work and I'm like missing out. I'm like, oh fucking hell, man. But yeah, that again, complete utter on a tangent, going completely off script. That's your fault, Sean. All she did was mention Dan's stream, Hayden's stream, and look what I've just gone off a complete tangent. So here we go in here. I sometimes show last night, Sean. Also dive into Paul Nash's filmography. Okay. I'm going to catch up with the chat eventually. I'm just fucking... Okay, hang on. Let me just make a note. I'm going to regret asking Dan anything, because I'm just going to keep on stopping and just making a note of... And that's... Yeah, okay. There we go. Made a note of that. You see the hair down low. Oh yeah, of course. Caden's had a haircut, hasn't he? Yeah, he's getting a bit. I think he's getting a bit paranoid about his hairline, isn't he? My hairline is going a little bit. I think Hayden's getting a bit. I think he needs to shave it off. I know Teen Light is getting new blame from Synapse. If I could afford to just buy loads of DVDs and Blu-rays and 4Ks, Dan, I would, but I just can't do it. It's too expensive. I haven't got the space. Like I say, I've said it before. I'll just watch you guys with your amazing collections. What I'll do is I'll get the StreamYard Premium, pay £20 a month, and just download the background of your background in your room and just have that. So my background will be your background. I'll just steal your background. Sorry, Sean. I've been making all the work. Have I missed something on the final draft of Watch Your? Have I missed something there? I've been so wrapped up chatting shit. Like have I missed something in the chat? DJ with the most random question ever. Blackpool Peach Alton Towers. It's got to be Alton Towers. Alton Towers for the rides, Blackpool for the drinks. It's like I do like Alton Towers, but Blackpool is great because I'll rephrase that. If you're a kid. Dan's got no idea what's going on now because this is just a totally British question. If you're a kid, it's going to be Alton Towers because it's just rides. If you're an adult, I'd say Blackpool because it's rides and then you just get fucking pissed go down the front and get absolutely fucking levered. You know, just all the on the bars. Alton Towers, nobody's getting pissed in Alton Towers because it's too expensive for a drink. Getting a drink in Alton Towers, it's like probably more expensive than going for a drink in London. So yeah, I'd say definitely if you're under 18, Alton Towers. If you're an adult, Blackpool. See, Sean. Oh, superb, mate. Superb. So, can you give anything away in terms of like plot, or because the community will just put the word out? You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, don't want to give everything away, but in terms of like a rough idea, because us lot, well, not that I can do much, but if you the likes of Piz and people, Hayden, the guys with like bigger channels, they can really make a big difference for something like this. You know what I mean? You can really put the word out. I mean, you only have to look at the likes of the guy, the Friday the 13th, the guy that the Friday the 13th fan movies. He just not particularly big, money made guy. I think he just crowdfunded everything, and look what happened. But I always wonder that it's like, if you've got like a half decent camera and you've got a decent idea about like cinematography, then you can do something half decent. You can do something like, look at Blair Witch Project. I mean, the budget for that film was like 60 grand. Was it 60 grand? And it made like, $50 million, something like that. It's if you can tap into something that maybe no one's done before, then definitely go with it. And even if it's something someone's done before, if you can do it better than what they've done, go with it. So yeah, I mean, I wish I had the intelligence and skill to do something like that, but I mean, go for it, man. That's all I gotta say. Oh yeah, about Goose already come because in terms of filming, it's not going to cost a lot. It just seems like that's going to cost like a fair bit of money, Sean. If you can get backers for that, then great, because I mean, it's definitely different. But I'm just thinking, would that require like a fair bit of money in terms of like the setting? But if you can get backers, then just go for it, man. That's all I'll say. Just go for it. But yeah, I mean, if it becomes like a crowdsourcing thing, a crowdfunding thing, then us lot, we I mean, I'd definitely put my money in my pockets to crowdfund it, and I know we all would. It is. It's something that's not being done enough, I think. I think when you look at World War II, if you look at the impact of World War II, it's just a cultural event of the 20th century. Nothing that happened in the 20th century was a bigger deal than World War II. It affected every country on the planet. And most films have followed the traditional sort of trope of just showing different elements of the battles that took place, even up to modern day Dunkirk, or and the films in the 60s and 70s. Not many movies have gone for the horror route, and I'm surprised by that, because it's something that's open. There's so much you could do with that setting. Film, a war that took place all over the planet, more or less.
it took place, in so many different countries. And the fact that more people haven't like gone down the horror route, and the films that have done it have done pretty well, So it's definitely worth a go, and it's probably something that's not really. I say it's something that's maybe due a revival, maybe, because the horror genre is maybe getting a bit stale at this point. It's I was going to talk about Fear Street. I'm just going to go with Fear Street now. So I will do. I'm just going to read a few more topic. I had a set list of topics I was going to talk about, but then I just get wrapped up in the chat and then completely forgot what I was talking about. So there's topics I was going to talk about last week that I didn't talk about because I just got wrapped up in the chat, and then tonight I've just got wrapped up in the chat again, which is great because I'm just made up that people actually are in the chat. It's just fucking awesome, you know what I mean? For a channel with like my size, I just love the fact that there's people, yeah, it's just great. But there were topics I did want to talk about, but Dan, sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly, Dan. I mean, I'm going to go off topic here, Who is the most famous person in history? I know who the most famous person in history is. And I would say it's related to World War II. Who is the most famous person who's ever lived? It's Adolf Hitler. He is the most famous person who has ever lived. Possibly more, well, either him or Jesus Christ, if he lived. That's the impact of World War II. That's World War II. That's how big a deal World War II was. The fact that the person who was responsible for World War II is the most famous person who's ever lived on this planet, with the possible exception of Jesus Christ, and he might not even be real. So, but hey, Paulo's in chat. Paulo, see you on board, man. I've got a good chat going on now. Dan's in the chat, Sean's in the chat, Apollo's in the chat. Yeah, Apollo, we're just talking about we're talking about Sean's film. Sean's looking at making. We're talking about well, I was actually going to talk about Fear Street, so I'm just gonna Hitler. Yeah, that also sounds like a sort. Maybe you put a comma in there, Sean, because that also sounds like a sort of yeah. Hitler. Yeah. I'm joking. The way it's worded, it all sounds like it's just like, it's just like a shout out to Hitler. I'm joking. I just thought it was funny. Yeah, go. Sorry. So West of which involves a gunstick on the sharp one piece of that. Interesting. But don't put all your eggs in one basket, Sean. I'm no expert. Get the first one out and then focus everything on the second one. Because if you try and maybe juggle too much, but as I say, I'm no expert, so you do as you feel. But I would say just focus everything on this one, and then move on and focus everything on the next one. I was going to click on Preacher. I've not seen Preacher. There's just there's too many TV shows, Dan. It's impossible to keep up. It seems like every day there's a new TV show to watch. There's a new one on Amazon Prime, which is like about, I can't remember what it's called. People doing dares on each other or something. It just, I don't know. It's too much. Jesus is in the chat. Yeah. Well, like I say, I would say that in terms of like the two most famous people in history are Jesus and Adolf Hitler. I don't think anyone could dispute that. I mean, who is more famous than those two people? As much as it might piss off like people like Kanye West and, you know, like Madonna, Michael Jackson was pretty high up, but in terms of anything, but he's once the 20th century, once this generation dies off, Michael Jackson will be a relic. There's people like Hitler and Jesus will just always be famous. The Beatles, well, yeah, the Beatles, my hometown, the Beatles, yeah. But, you know, as much as I hate to admit it, you know, even though they're from my hometown, they will become more and more, well, less and less relevant as time goes on, whereas Jesus and Hitler will always be, I suppose, go back to like people like Leonardo da Vinci as well, and Mozart, people like that, you know, these musicians and people, and Galileo, Newton, these people who think change history basically. But anyway, moving on. I need to move on because I need to talk about Fear Street. Fear Street, I think I talked about it last week. I'm going to talk about it again. I don't understand the love for Fear Street. I've not seen the new 1666. I don't think I'm going to like it because it's set during a time where I've got no relevance to my life at all, because there's not going to be any music because there was no music in 1666. It's probably going to be like a cheap imitation of The Witch, which was probably filmed around the same time, I'm guessing. I can't remember exactly when that was filmed. I don't understand the love for Fear Street. I think we talked about this last week. I'd seen Fear Street 1994, didn't like it, liked the opening scene with Mia Hawke, who was the best thing in the entire trilogy. Well, in the first two films, she gets killed off in the first 10 minutes of part one. She is the best thing in this. She's by far the best actor. Loved her in Stranger Things. They kill her off. We get a bunch of characters who are less likable, less interesting. We get a Fear Street in 1978, which is just unlikable characters, boring storyline. They kill kids, so what? It's not shocking. It's, you know, killing kids now, it's not shocking. And it's not that it's not shocking now. Killing kids is still shocking. But the way they kill the kids is not shocking. If you want to see a shocking kill, which still disturbs to this day, which for me anyway, personally, watch Assault on Precinct 13 by John Carpenter. Watch a girl going to buy an ice cream and just getting shot in the stomach and just drops dead. That is shocking. Some crazy, crazy lunatic possessed witch going out with a machete or whatever he was carrying, just butchering a bunch of little kids. That's not shocking. It's not shocking. The film is neither of these first two films are any good in my opinion. I don't understand the love for them. There's a lot of big YouTubers who are like bigging this up, which is something else I wanted to go on to. So another thing that's going on from I think I have talked about Fear Street enough in terms of like last week. Going on to this week, carry on. I'm just going to carry on the Fear Street argument a little bit. Are big YouTube? Now, this is a question for you guys in the chat. Are influential YouTubers in the horror community? And I don't mean Piz because he's a big YouTuber, but he doesn't really do up-to-date movie reviews. But are some of the big horror YouTubers, are they getting kickbacks for good reviews? Because it seems to me that a lot of these bang average movies are getting decent to good to really good reviews when they are not. I mean, this is just my opinion. When they are not that good, is it beyond the realms of possibility that maybe some of these like bigger YouTubers who are like, I'm talking like the 50 to 100,000 sub YouTubers and anyone above that, are they possibly getting kickbacks off some of these companies? Because these big YouTubers, they're making good money off advertisements, selling stuff. What's an extra few, couple of $1,000s a month just to keep the channel going? And I look at some of these big channels and I look at the reviews and I'm like, where's the negativity? Where's the you seem to be like really on board with a lot of the stuff, and I'm like, I don't get it. Maybe it's just me being negative. Maybe it's just me not liking the product, what they're pushing. But it just seems to be, I don't know. It seems to be very sort of, oh yeah, the new movie's amazing. This is great. This Netflix original is fantastic, and I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's got flaws. It's got major flaws. But you just seem to be on a massive sort of hype thing, and I'm like, I could be wrong. I don't know. It just, I am suspicious. I am, because at the end of the day, are we supposed to believe that the big companies are not going to approach influential YouTubers? Because if you look at a company like Shudder, now Shudder is not a big streaming service. Now there's the people they are pitching their stuff to, they don't get reviews in the newspapers. They're not getting reviews on like the big radio stations, the big TV stations. Shudder, their movies are they're getting pushed on social media, because Shudder is a very small streaming service compared to like the big boys like Netflix and Amazon Prime. So it would really benefit them to reach out to the horror community, on YouTube and other platforms. So what to them, although they're a small streaming service, what is it to them to just say to a relatively big YouTuber, say, here's $1,000, give that film a good review, will you? Don't make it too obvious, but just give it a decent review, because Shudder are getting a lot of their traffic off the YouTubers. I mean, I can speak from experience, because maybe I'm contradicting myself here, but I had no awareness of Vicious Fun, which I know you've reviewed on your channel. I know you weren't that keen on it, but I loved Vicious Fun. I thought it was a great, well, not a great film. I thought it was a really solid, enjoyable, B movie slasher. Now, I saw that through a review on YouTube, and I'd heard nothing about this film. Now, luckily, in my opinion, it was a really good film, but a lot of people are going to maybe be getting less than honest reviews through YouTube and directing them to Shudder and other streaming services who probably haven't got the kudos of Netflix. Now, I'm not saying that Shudder, I'm not saying that, like, obviously, like, Vicious Fun is a good film, and I don't mind Psycho Gorman, but the reality is that Shudder are probably going to be putting out some less than decent movies over the year. Now, the likelihood is that some YouTubers who maybe, I'm just assuming now again, I just can't imagine that they're not approaching some YouTubers and just offering them, a bit of money to give a positive review. And if that review is is a movie like Vicious Fun, all's well and good, but Shudder do release some complete shit. And if they are giving YouTubers, backhanders to give a positive review, then it's not really a good thing. But this is just, as I say, this is just me making assumptions. But I can't believe that it's not going on. It has to be going on, because that's the way the world works. If you want to make money, you pay. That's the thing. People pay influencers now. Social media is such a massive platform that big companies pay. They call them influencers, and it's no difference in the horror community. There are people in the horror community who definitely influence what people buy and consume. And if you go above a certain level, obviously nobody's going to approach, my people like me. But if I had 150,000 subscribers and I'm reviewing horror films every week, people are going to go to me and go, "Hey, listen, you can watch this film for nothing. We'll send you a pre-release disc." And it's very sort of the way they do it as well. By all accounts, they kind of do offer, like, some of the big YouTubers, they'll give them a pre-release copy of a film and they say, "No pressure, you just say what you think." But when you do that, you're going to be thinking, I've just gained a free film there just to give a review. If I give a bad review, chances are they're not going to be giving me any more early releases. So it is kind of like that. It's kind of blackmailish. It is what it is. And I've just gone off on yet another rant, sort of, and totally missed the chat. And I think Dan's got something interesting to add, because I knew Dan would have something to say about this. If I can find out. Sean, Lauren, now the keys. That's nice. Is that Lauren? Lauren knows. Lauren manages to get some fucking insane guests on his channel. Like, I don't know how he does it. It's just been crazy. So I understand. Hey, mate. Yeah, I've totally missed half the chat now. Where am I? Yeah, John he did say they're unpopular in Jesus. I think he was being ironic when he said that. At the time, they were, but I think he was trying to piss off Americans, because I think, did he say in the Bible? Was he in the Bible Belt when he said that? Or was he just, he was trying to piss off Americans, religious Americans, by saying that, and he wanted to get a reaction, and he did that. Beatles, yeah, Beatles. Yeah, I don't like the Rolling Stones. I'm not even a massive fan of the Beatles. I know I used the real fifth Beatle. That's just because I'm from Liverpool and I wanted something that's like, get attention. But I do like the Beatles, but I'm not a massive fan. The Rolling Stones, I don't like at all. Own the Witch, but still haven't seen it. Yeah, it's The Witch. I need to revisit The Witch. It's one of those films, because it's set so long ago. It's hard to relate to it for me. It's like it's at a time when nobody knows what it was like at that time. It's just guesswork, really, because is it the 1600s, The Witch? I don't know. I can't remember. Is it the 1600s, or it's very early on in like America's history? Green Knight's one of the most later this month. The Witch is great. Yeah. Eugene. Well, is it going to be better than the first trailer, Sean? Because the first trailer bored me to tears. I didn't like the first trailer. I've no interest in Dune. I've not seen the first film. I've not read the book. It looks very grey and miserable. But if you, I probably will go. I will watch it, but I don't know. It's not. What is it like? What is it that's going to grab me about the storyline? Seems quite boring. So what is it that's going to grab me about it? You sell it to me in one sentence. You tell me there's going to be some crazy action scene or just something, because I don't know when I'm watching it. it's almost the trailer to me is almost as bad as the Eternals trailer. The Eternals trailer was so dull. I've got no interest in watching that film whatsoever. Right, what's going to happen that day? Well, that's the thing, Dan. The director makes me confident about the film, but the film itself doesn't grab me at all. So hopefully, but I say it should come out at Christmas, and is it coming out this Christmas now? It's like bloody James Bond. When's that coming out? It just goes on and on and on. So extra positive then. That's right. He's a very good director. I'm not going to argue with that. He is a very good director. I mean, Blade Runner 2049 was outstanding. Horror sites used to push people to keep reviews. I suppose it's always done that. I suppose even before social media. I suppose, you know, going back to the day of print media, there would have been influence going on. You know, you do this for me, you do that. You know, it's probably always gone on. It's just one of those things. But it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing, as I say, because like with a positive review of Vicious Fun on Shudder, I went and watched it, had no idea what I was letting myself in for, and loved the film. I thought it was way better than Fear Street. Controversial, but there you go. Maybe because it's on Shudder and not the cool. Does Netflix get a free ride? Is it just in the chat? Do you guys think that Netflix do you think like Netflix, it's almost become like a sort of religion, and people just sort of bow down to Netflix as if like they can't do any wrong? Because it almost feels like with Netflix now, they've kind of got this messiah complex where everything they do is just, oh, it's Netflix, this is amazing. And it's like, for me, it almost feels like the what's that old story, the where the king walks through town with no clothes on. What's it called? That it's like an old fable where everybody's too embarrassed to say to the king, you've got no clothes on. It almost feels like that with Netflix. It's like they can pump out some utter shite, but people will still say, oh yeah, it's great. They have been, sure, but what I'm saying is they don't always put out great stuff. They do put out some pretty shitty stuff. And I just feel that when they do, maybe they get a free pass because they're Netflix, and people don't really want to sort of, I don't know. It's just, maybe I'm just bitter over Fear Street. Because am I the only person who thinks Fear? In the chat, I asked this before. Just leave. Am I being harsh on Fear Street? Is it overrated, or is it brilliant, or is it good? I think it's a 5 out of 10 trilogy. Leave your mark out of 10. If you've not seen the last film, for the first two, am I the only person who thinks that this is a very average bunch of films? I don't know. I begin to think that I'm in the wrong and you guys are all right, but Amazon has Bond. So have Amazon got the rights to Bond now, Dan? Like, as in, can they put it on Prime? Or I'm just so, with COVID now, I'm so lost. Amazon Prime just going to put Bond, the new Bond film, on Prime at the same time as the cinema release with a $20 price tag? I don't know. Did you all hear that Netflix may have Helen Kills after the weekend's opening? It wouldn't surprise me, Apollo. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I think that's going to be a big thing now. I think you've got to consider, like with cinema releases, think of all the people who don't have a cinema near them, like a decent cinema with like a big screen. And you know, with streaming now, you could just throw out a big release on the cinema, and then almost simultaneously have it streaming, but for a fee. Obviously, it's not going to be free. It's going to be for a fee. You know, maybe $15-20 for people who don't have any interest in going to cinema, who can't be bothered. Because at the end of the day, if you go to cinema, you're paying your cinema fees. You're paying you can, unless you smuggle food and drink in, you can be paying popcorn, chocolate, drinks. It's a lot of money. It's double what you'd pay to stream the film. And if that film's not going to get released for like 3 months, maybe for free on that particular streaming service, that is a big incentive for people who cannot be bothered getting off the backsides to go to the cinema. And let's face it, from COVID onwards, there's a lot of people who cannot be bothered to get off the backsides to go and watch a film, and they are gonna lap that up. They are gonna the possibility of just a new release going straight onto their streaming service for like the half the price of what it cost in the cinema, taking into account food and drink and petrol, you know, to get there. I think there's a big market for that, and I think that's something that the cinema chains are probably going to be very worried about. But obviously, they are going to have to keep that in place for a good 3 or these streaming services are going to have to keep that in place for a good 3 or 4 months, the way Disney are doing with Black Widow, because I think it's 2 months, is it, Black Widow, before it goes to free on Disney Plus. But they are gonna, they're really gonna have to watch themselves. These cinema companies. I honestly see a situation where if the real big movies don't start dropping in the next 12 months to 2 years, this could become just accelerated, because you need those real big blockbusters that you've got to see on the big screen. Endgame, Infinity War. Maybe arguably Jurassic World films, that sort of thing, where, you know, event films, Avatar 2 when it eventually drops, event films that need to be seen on a massive screen, they could be the only thing that keeps, you know, they could be the only thing that keeps cinema going at this point. And cinema may become a niche. You may end up with just small cinemas in small towns showing old films from the 1970s and 1980s, which will gain an audience, because these multiplex cinemas with like 15 screens, which cater to, like, you know, thousands of people, if you've only got a few hundred people turning up every week, then they're just going to plummet. So, yeah, I mean, I can see a big problem coming. Really can. June is everyone. It's website out and a lot of it. Yeah, I see. If I read the book, I probably would be more invested. I'd seen the original, but the original film is meant to be very divisive. Apparently, people who've read the book, who are fans of the book, don't like the film. So there's that element. So even the original film is meant to be a bit of a, it's not loved by the people the community who like the book. So you know, they have been doing it, sure. First Street, what's it so far? Yeah, it's, as I say, I like the opening 10 minutes of 94. I really enjoyed. After that, it's, I don't know. It's just not. I've found that. I mean, if you're going to set a film in 94, at least have music from 94. Playing Firestarter by The Prodigy was in 96. That's a small quibble. You know, I'm picking holes now, but 78. I thought 78 was going to be the one for me. I thought, I'm going to love this, you know. And apparently it's set at the same camp as Jason Lives, apparently. According to one website I saw, maybe if that's true, you know, back me up in the chat. I should love it even more, but I don't know. The whole witch story, the fact that he walks around without a mask on for the whole film, I would prefer to be put a mask on. Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah. Maybe I don't know. I didn't like it. And if it's for me, that's like a camp slasher. That's saying something. It really is. Did the I've never seen the Doom series. I'm guessing is that but that was that like a 90s thing, Dan? I've got vague recollections of a miniseries, but I think was it a long time ago? Must have been. I suppose the one thing with Dune, it looks like if it's a fair, if they do a good job of like, not in terms of taking the book and make an honest recollection of the book, because I think with modern day sci-fi and horror and fantasy, everything they do, it's so different to what it used to be. And if it could be an honest recollection of the book, then I don't suppose you could ask for any more than that. But I suppose there's a fine line between pleasing the fans of the book and people who want to see this big budget blockbuster film. And I get the impression that the fans of the book are probably going to hate the film. That's just the way it usually goes. But unfortunately for the fans of the book, they're going to be a lot less probably than the people who go and watch the film. So that's sod's law. That's the way it is, unfortunately. I think that's it for me tonight, guys. It's getting on for 2:00 in the UK. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Again, there's subjects I would have liked to have covered, and I just got completely sidetracked by the chat. But I'm gonna call it a night, guys, because it is getting late. I'll probably be on somebody else's live stream first thing in the morning, so I'll probably see some of you guys there. But thanks to Sean, Apollo, Dan, Big Crack Rock, Big Crack Rock, Big Crack Rock. Thank you, man. I didn't know Big Crack Rock was subscribed to my channel. I think that's everyone. I said Apollo now. And DJ, obviously. Anyway, guys, thank you for that, mate. And I will see you. I'm going to be doing a Halloween 5 live stream next Tuesday, and I will be back next Friday for another random live chat. And I will see you guys later. Bye.